What is going on, you beautiful people? It's your boy, Where's Fluffy? Drop in another Dauntless guide. And today we're just going to be going over your swordplay. And when I say swordplay, I mean how to better work around and have a better understanding of the sword weapon. I'm pretty much just going to be going over a lot of information and details about the sword and some tips and tricks you may not know that could potentially save you and help make you a better slayer in the long run. It's just some small details and information. So things we're going to be discussing is weapons to take early and some I feel like are really good late, perks, and what these weapons do or what the sword specials do. And when I first came to Dauntless, the sword was definitely the first weapon I decided to take and really wanted to master. Weapon is definitely a top 3 favorite of the current, I believe, 7 or 8 weapons that are currently in Dauntless. So I decided to drop a little bit of knowledge to help new people or people who just in general want to learn a different weapon and be successful a little bit faster. Now, with the sword is basically like a jack of all trades. It can do a lot of things. It can sever behemoth parts, break behemoth parts. It can stagger, but not as good as the other weapons. It doesn't have blunt, so fighting someone like scarring with a sword is a lot harder to do than with like a striker or a hammer. But the sword does offer a lot in terms of a good bit of DPS and mobility. I feel like when it comes to the sword, it doesn't do any one thing super amazing, but it does do a lot of small things well, and I feel like that's why it's so good. I'm going to try and make this not so confusing, so just bear with me. I'll go over the specials and the mods and tell you which ones I think are the best to take and why. Now, Ardent Cyclone is a special that's unlocked at Sword Mastery 8. It basically just spins you around in a circle. You do damage constantly, and then you want to reactivate this ability in order to do more damage based on a number of spin hits you did to the enemy. The important part about this is you want to make sure you reactivate your special before the bar runs out, or else you're just missing out on a lot of burst damage at the end of the combo because it matters. You want that build up damage for that final slam attack. Now, if you do like Ardent Cyclone, I say pair it up with the mod Adhesive Hilt, which is you become unstaggerable while you're in a special, so as long as you're spinning, you won't get knocked back, so you can continue to spin. Now, do mind you that with Adhesive Hilt, you still take damage. You won't stop spinning, but you will take damage, so you do need to be careful about when and where you're doing it and how you're taking these hits because it still can cost you your life at the end of the day. Now, Avenging Overdrive is relatively new, so unless you're doing trials, you can't really get it from Lady Luck because you need the currency from the trials in order to be able to buy this. I do think it's really good. I think it's fun to use. And this special is perfect if you do have trouble interrupting behemoths and you want something that's simple and easy to use. Also, in the clip of me using Avenging Overdrive, I'm using Perpetual Blade Core, which is while you do damage, you get a small amount of that special meter back, meaning you can continuously keep up that buff and be able to do more. I feel like Perpetual Blade Core is okay. It does have a lot of good uses, and I would rather use it with the next special for the sword I'm going to talk about. Violent Overdrive is the first special you get for this sword, and it's probably the best one in my opinion. It gives you a sort of glow. Also grants 20% attack speed, and when your attacks do like a small AoE that can affect many different behemoth body parts at once. Plus, you get a dash. Now, you also get a dash as your special when you're in this mode, and it kind of works as a roll, and I'll explain just what I mean with the next mod. Now, this mod, Reactive Hilt, you get this later on when you're going up in the Sword Master. This is probably the best mod to take because any dodge you use automatically crit strikes, as you can see in the clip. Now, with this mod, you have to attack immediately after you roll in order to get that crit strike off. It can work on a heavy or a light. It doesn't really matter, and this is probably why it's one of the best, if not the best, to take as a mod once you get it later on. Works with your sword dash and volley and overdrive. So if you attack right after dashing, you always get a crit strike with this mod. I don't know if it was meant to be like that, but that's kind of like just what I've noticed and something that works, so you want to keep that in mind. As far as momentum pommel, you get to use your triple elements finisher twice, and you deal 100 plus damage on a second use. I don't really think it's that great compared to like always being able to critically strike, because you won't always be able to do triple elements combo, so you can get more value out of a reactive hit. And not to mention, you have to get this from Lady Luck too. And the same thing with Whistling Blades, I don't think is like super good enough. I don't think that stamina cost of repeating elements is good enough and gives enough value for me to care compared to the reactive hit. Now, I know you're tired of hearing me talking, so the next thing up we're going to do is basically just show you the combos, show you how I specifically combo against behemoths, and a couple of tips and tricks you might not know with the sword. I'm pretty much just going to try and keep this universal and just call everything, you know, a light attack, heavy attack, your overdrive, and your aether dash, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to try and keep it simple like that, just because the game is pretty much universal, and I don't want to get anybody mixed up by saying, you know, use X or, you know, use Y, and when they got like, you know, square and triangle. So I'm going to try and keep it that simple. So the first combo for the sword is the quad cross, which is this 4 light attacks in a row. The second combo we have is triple elements, which is just 3 lights in a row, a slight pause, and then 2 heavies. Now there is a little trick for this so you can get the timing down perfectly, and I'm going to show you after I show you the combo. So triple elements. Now if you were paying attention the first time, you heard like a little audio cue and a sound glint that pretty much tells you now you can switch into your heavy. So I'm going to just show you it again one more time. That's the glint and the audio cue, and then, you know, you see me switch into the heavy. The third combo being repeating elements, the weight pretty much is the same as the triple elements and finding the cue in order to do the combo. Repeating elements just consist of 2 heavy attacks, a pause, and then a repeat of the light attack. And that pretty much takes 10 stamina off each time. Just show you it one more time so you can hear the audio cue and the glint. It works the same as the previous combo. Audio cue, glint, and just X. The last combo we have is just pretty simple. Rising elements is just 3 heavy attacks in a row. So I forgot to mention, triple elements is your highest damage dealing combo in terms of burst, and just straight DPS you probably want repeating elements, but repeating elements consumes a lot more for the sake of that DPS. Now what I usually do on a behemoth that's been staggered or in a down state, I run triple elements into repeating elements or triple elements into rising elements to get the most out of my combos and my DPS. Triple elements, glint, heavy, into repeating elements, glint, and then continuous light. Uses up most of your stamina, but if you play it right, you get a high amount of DPS coming out from that. Triple elements into rising elements. I don't think it's as good as triple elements into repeating elements, but you use this basically if you don't have a lot of stamina at the time and you want to get that DPS in. So just to show you what it looks like for, you know, for whatever's sake. Triple elements. Glint, bam, bam, into rising elements, just, you know, followed up by 3 heavies. Now, as far as tips I can teach you, there's probably a couple things you might not know, and I feel like these are like things that can help you improve your DPS and save your life at the same time. Obviously, one of the biggest things in Dauntless is, you know, not getting hit, so you want to utilize your dashes and your rolls. For the sword's case, we have a roll. It takes up 20 stamina per roll, so you know you do want to be careful with that. Now, one thing you might not realize is you can quote-unquote extend the range of your roll by using a light attack after your roll, so you get a little bit of a stretch. This is something that's noteworthy because you can fit in DPS from there. If you do roll like too early and you're not close enough, you can use this little bit of a stretch to get in that crit strike or whatever you want to use. So if I roll in heavy, I'm pretty much like a little bit into the mirror, but it is not as fast. I don't really like rolling into the heavy. It doesn't. I don't feel like it stretches you that far compared to if I roll and then light. You see, I go a good bit of distance in order to reach the behemoth or whatever it is I'm trying to attack. Another method I like and use a lot, which is really a lifesaver, I call it stalling. And I call it stalling because you're basically just stalling your attack, which is you're just like slowing down your combo. And I use this method so I can see the behemoth's attack and I don't end up overextending my combo in order to not take damage. And I'm gonna just show you what I mean. I'm gonna just do a regular quad cross, you know, just like if I'm just button mashing or just tapping it for it to fully go through. That's the regular quad cross speed at like just normal attack speed, whatever. Stalling is what I use to take in what the behemoth's doing without overextending my combo and getting hit. So quad cross slowed down. You see, I'm not attacking as fast as I would if I was just using a combo regularly. I do this because I can stop mid combo, and then if the behemoth's doing something and I see it coming, I can immediately roll out the way. Whereas if I'm just like button mashing and trying to do a combo, there's no roll that comes out. The roll pretty much just comes out too late, which you don't want that to happen because that can end up being, you know, a life or death situation. You can pretty much do this with most weapons and most combos. It isn't something I really see talked about too much, but I feel like it is important to note and bring up, especially when you're doing your heavy combos and you want to get all that DPS. And heavy combos happen slow, so there's not a lot of room for error if you do use those. Whereas if I'm stalling a combo, I can heavy taking what the behemoth is doing, and if I see, you know, he's not going to do something that's going to affect me, I can continue on with the combo without losing too much DPS. And honestly, that's all you really need to know in terms of like just basic combat for the sword and little tips and extras that can help you go a long way. Like I promise you, if you practice these and insert them into your sword play, your DPS will become so much better and you'll become that much more of a really good slayer. Okay, so one quick thing I forgot to mention while editing this video is that you can obviously interrupt the sword. You just use a heavy on any behemoth attack or whatever that can be interrupted. Now originally this video was supposed to be a lot longer, but I didn't want it to be too long, and I was getting at like 19 minutes worth of info, and I didn't want the video to be that long. So I just decided to shorten it and end it here. The only thing you're missing out on is just me talking about cells for the swords and just pots and stuff like that, and I could just include that in another video, so it's fine. But I do hope you got some insight and information from this video, and as always, appreciate all love and support from you beautiful people. And until the next time, peace.